dangers untold.
Rest. For coin or for cause, I fight to the end.
This game will make you kill your girlfriend. Need to pee? Your bladder can wait. Anton Blast is on its way, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. Ads! People love them, people hate them. It's something that's just everywhere in places we don't want them being in. Like a rash, or unfunny AI memes. And there's no shortage of advertising in the world of video games. Ever since the dawn of time, if you want someone to buy something you made, then you gotta advertise it to convince little Jimmy here to spend their own or mommy's money to play a game that looks like this. And throughout the years with how ads are deprived of life nowadays, it made me curious about how video game ads looked back then. So follow me as we delve deep into the many ads and commercials that have changed and morphed over the past 4 decades that resulted in the white torture of creativity we ended up with. Seeing what trends were popular and how the attitude towards games have changed over the years. And we are starting with... With the introduction of home consoles during the 70s and 80s, the market for games was like the Wild West, as this was a new form of entertainment for the home television. And one of the best ways to advertise your fancy schmancy gaming console was to target kids and families, of course. Several ads would promote the consoles as if it were a novelty item to bring your family together for a fun night with your television, making happy memories full of natural smiles and wide coked-up eyes. And for kids, to take advantage of their vivid imaginations, game consoles and arcades would be advertised as a portal to transport you in a virtual funland that promises tens or even hundreds of hours of fun that you and your friends can join in on. So real it hurts! Man, these kids certainly look like they're having a great time. A good example of using the power of imagination in adverts is this Virtual Boy ad. It captures the feeling of what gaming consoles were like in the mind of a child, their imagination fueling how awesome video games were to play. And with the Virtual Boy being one of the earliest examples of VR, the visual being sucked into the world of the console itself is meant to give the idea that you, the player, will be inside the game itself with a horrible eye infection. That feeling was definitely accentuated with this commercial depicting a dystopian nightmare where virtual boys reign supreme. Oh yes, the first thing I think of when it comes to baseball is fart torture. I would say this is the peak of gaming advertising, as there was a mix of whimsy and excitement for this new form of technology, as it was indeed back then quite a revolutionary advancement in entertainment, as now anyone with a TV and $500 to spare can play games in their own household. Many ads reflect this notion by giving their audience the feeling of being transported to another world, or becoming a part of something much more exciting than what goes on in their mundane lives. These series of ads I've noticed are quite fascinating to look at, where much like box arts, the main focus that these ads want viewers to pay attention to is how you feel when viewing them. Take this Street Fighter ad for example. On the side you can see a screenshot of the actual game itself, but the main focus is the illustration depicting a man facing a group of thugs, looking tense and ready for a fight, coming together with a tagline at the top, "Nothing stands in your way." Does it depict the game accurately? No. But the main purpose of this ad was to invoke the feeling of badassery, giving the viewer the idea that if they play this game, they themselves are the badass. That was the trend for ads when the 90s came about, being hip and cool. Okay, not literally, but you get the idea. The notion that this console will make you the cool kid definitely made itself known when you look at the ad campaign for the Sega Genesis with the infamous with Sonic grabbing Mario by the jugular during the 90s and shaming his dainty SNES with his ultra girthy Genesis. This tagline carried Sega throughout the console wars for a good number of years. Didn't end well for them, but this ad campaign put Sega on the map, and we can't forget the GOAT himself, Mr. Sega. Rest in peace, King. So, with Sega being the cool kid in the lunchroom, how did Nintendo respond? Oh, well that's not very cool. What else you got? Oh. Oh no. This is where we enter the crazy zone. Somehow as we enter the new decade, the marketing team sorted the rest of the cocaine from the 80s and decided to just get weird with it. And oh boy, did they get weird with it. We got the gross out humor, the fever dream induced visuals, and some of the most random, batshit insane things that would make a Victorian child implode. And a lot of these have become controversial for the kind of content many of these ads contained. Domestic violence! Sure, why not? Now I want to share my personal theory as to why the video game market started to go a bit bonkers with their ad campaigns during this time. Back in the 80s, many ads were targeted towards kids and families. So naturally, the view on video games from the wider audience is that it's simply something for the kids and maybe your grandma, a notion that still exists to this day. So, in an attempt to break out those conventions, gaming companies have to go, no, these games aren't just for kids, they're for the everyman. See, Mario is cool now. Not good enough? Well, Wario is now pissed. Crash Bandicoot was no stranger to this, depicted Crash as just being a douchebag who would later cheat on PlayStation to be with Xbox and to get indecent exposure. There's also this.
Hey, plumber boy, mustache man, your worst nightmare has arrived.
I'm gonna have to ask you to leave.
PlayStation at the time were fucking bonkers with their ads, just throwing whatever sticks to make their games be the epitome of cool. It's more powerful than God. I now subscribe to the PlayStation Bibble. No arms, no legs, huge features. Oh, you think that's crazy? How about comparing Wipeout to taking drugs? Or Final Fantasy, what? Oh, but Nintendo's not done here. Nintendo just went fucking crazy with their ads. Like Game Boy Color, now with 6 tasty colors. Oh, is that candy or something? Game Boy, more fun than ferret down your pants. What were you smoking, Nintendo? If these are the coolest graphics, then my name isn't what the fuck? The new Game Boy Pocket. Seriously distracting. Oh my. Oh yeah, speaking of which. Mommy, what are those two Satan machines doing? Well, little Timmy, when a mommy Satan Genesis and a daddy Satan 32X love each other very much, they sell only 800,000 units. This trend of ads for video games was probably the most disgusting during this period. Yes, even grosser than the actual gross out stuff. But if there's one thing that transcends time itself, sex. Sell! Even as early as the 80s, gaming companies would stoop that low to use sex appeal to sell their games. But when the 90s came about, oh boy, that shit was turned up to 11. The more you play, the harder it gets. Alright, it's pretty obvious what the target audience were when making these ads. That's right, lesbian. Many of these ads just depict sexy women being used as eye candy to attract horny, perverted men to come slobber all over the new console/game, with the very strange and poorly aged subgenre of unfaithful partners. I remember when he couldn't keep his hands off me. Sorry to hear that, but damn, look at that lean! I don't mind if my boyfriend plays himself later. What does this have to do with Panzer Dragon? Turn your Super Nintendo into a super sexy, lean, mean street machine. 29. In case you didn't notice, there's a beautiful woman on this page. Oh sorry, I was looking at how wrinkly her bedsheets are. And here comes Nintendo once again to put on the crazy pants with their adverts for console that has Pokemon in it. Probably the most tasteful, sexy ad campaign was this series of Game Boy Advance SP ads that parodies those intimate perfume ads, but instead of selling you perfume, it's selling you Mario Kart. The reason why I call this tasteful is that it doesn't have a lot of the sexist undertones, depicting women as nothing more than an obsolete item to satisfy their partner, but it's only a bit above the rest. Alright, enough innuendos. Let's get back on track. Here is where we start to move away from printed advertising such as magazines and posters to focus purely on digital media, specifically commercials and game trailers. And there was a sudden shift on how commercials were presented. Sure, there was still the goofy and over-top ads, but there's no longer the gross-out humor or the sexist stuff. Okay, there's still a few more, but it died out very quickly at the turn of the mid-2000s. A handful are pretty iconic for pretty different reasons, and I believe were the catalyst of how video game ads would become in the following years. First, there's the iconic "We Would Like to Play." This series of ads will be the one to solidify Nintendo's identity, to be more family-friendly oriented, something that everyone, even your grandma, can play. Just be careful where you swing that thing. The vibe of these ads are definitely 2000s, with the start having the Matrix aesthetic with the two men in suits removing their sunglasses and grabbing a suitcase as they approach a random house, all serious-like. But that quickly melts away when they say the iconic line,
"We would like to play."
It then turns to an honestly wholesome ad that just has these two Japanese men going house to house to showcase random strangers the new games and features of the Wii, with some interactions outside of the game, giving off the comfy feeling of hanging out with friends and family, all ending with a showcase of the Wii to an applause. And seeing how successful the Wii was, this ad was pretty effective to sell itself as a console for everyone, young and old, no matter where you're from, you'll always have a good time with the ones you love. But that's boring! I want action! Give me the bloodshed! Give me the rush of adrenaline as I mow down innocent civilians as they flee in terror! And that's what Xbox delivers best with their games. Ain't that right, Gears of War? Wait, what? This was the other instance of how gaming commercials have morphed during the 2010s and 2010s. As with the few Xbox games, instead of having the tone of being all hype and overstimulating, they went a different direction to be more quiet, foreboding, yet intriguing. The first Gears of War commercial is a very memorable one, as while the game itself is pretty violent and hardcore with its setting and content, the trailer presents itself to be more harrowing and hopeless as to set the tone for what kind of world this is. While the 2001 song Mad World, composed by Gary Jones Aguirre Jr., accompanies the ad. It shows a world on the brink of total annihilation as Marcus struggles against the endless horde of the locusts. The piano melody punctuating the inevitability that the earth itself would never be better, yet despite that, Marcus fights with all his might as the last man standing. And of course, I can't forget to mention probably one of the greatest video game commercials of all time, Halo 3's Believe. Believe is something that's one of a kind, and is what solidified Xbox's position as the top of the gaming industry at the time. And it excelled the Halo franchise to be something more than just a sci-fi shooter. It became something special. Through this ad, we witness a moment frozen in time as the song Preludes No. 15, Raindrop by pianist Frederick Chopin, plays over a colored scene of war between the humans and the Covenant. The humans are depicted to be on the brink of defeat, as many soldiers are shown being overwhelmed by the might of their enemy, many hiding from the chaos with faces of shell-shock and terror, while others face death itself with valor despite the odds. And above the chaos is an elite holding up the limp body of Master Chief, proudly proclaiming its victory for defeating the most powerful being in the galaxy. However, in the end, we see the grenade Master Chief is holding start to glow, and the Chief simply lifts his head up to face the camera, ending with the word, believe. This commercial is truly a work of art. And the most impressive thing about this is the fact that these are actual real-life models, all created with such detail and depicting so much in so little time. And seeing Master Chief raise his head at the end, despite the odds, he still has some fight left in him, not willing to give up even on the brink of defeat. Not to mention the other commercials of the campaign that shows the stories of veterans of the Halo Wars who have survived and grown old, to talk about their first-hand accounts of that same commercial in a mock interview style video, even using props of Covenant guns to sell authenticity, expanding on the franchise's world building of what the fate of the galaxy would be decades after the war. It's truly inspiring, all for the purpose of advertising Halo 3. Wow, that was pretty deep. Let's see what PlayStation we're up to. Good lord, they finally lost their minds. This is actually from a series of commercials for the PS3. Set in this white room with the PS3 sat in the middle as the console showcases its many features using a Rubik's Cube and throwing eggs at the wall. And they present themselves in this avant-garde artsy schmartsy style. You can tell it's avant-garde because of these crows flying out the edge when they hit by the wall. Ooh, how deep. And then there's the baby. I don't know what to say about this, but I would say that it was pretty successful in this campaign to bring attention to the PS3, as it's one of the most infamous gaming commercials. For its strange cinematography and mind-bending visuals, it contributed to selling half as many units as the PS2 did. Would we see a following trend of these types of commercials as we reach the 2010s and 2020s? Rest in peace, Suya. As we come to the 2010s, there were some that I noticed when the internet has started to become more widespread. And it's not just about the rise of social media sites before they become authoritarian nightmares. It's the shift in advertising as brands started to turn towards their new audience, people who shifted from watching TV 24/7 to watching YouTube 24/7. Like I did. Now there's ads everywhere on the internet where they try to shove their shitty products in your face no matter where you go online, and with video games specifically, there's a noticeable change in how they presented them. That's right, game trailers. While not a recent thing for advertisements to do, hell, trailers have been around for a long time since the dawn of movies and TV shows, but when it comes to video games, I noticed that now in the digital age, many upcoming games will just create short trailers featuring unique CG scenes with splices of gameplay. Now is that a bad thing? No, it's a good yet safe way to show off your game to a wider audience, but to get heads turning, you will have to stand out amongst the sea of cinematic trailers. It could be through witty writing, like the first Undertale trailer showcasing itself through humor and absurdity, or it could be done with spectacle, with high quality 3D animations, and big action scenes like how Blizzard would showcase their games before, they started sucking. Another example is the use of spectacle by showcasing the scale of an open world game that's full of life and, more importantly, content. Like how GTA 5 and Breath of the Wild focused their trailers in its open world and how much stuff you can do in it, or taking a page from the 2000s with a commercial to hit you right in the feels. This frame right here is one of the most memorable things about the Dead Island franchise. Instead of presenting developer Techland's newest zombie game as it was, a 4-player action RPG taking place in a zombie-ridden Jumper Island with the tone of being a badass brain smasher, instead goes for the opposite with a tragic side story within the game's world. The trailer depicts the tragic death of a family that gets swept up in the start of the zombie apocalypse as the entire video plays backwards, with bits of the beginning cutting in and out. The slow motion of time going backwards with the backdrop of this infamous sad track creates this feeling of tragedy with cuts at the beginning full of panic and violence as his family struggles to survive against the zombies. But ultimately, we see that they don't make it, leaving us with the frame of the father and daughter so close yet so far and reaching for their hands as it fades out to the game's title. This trailer was so effective that the piano melody became a bit of a meme right after. You could probably guess where it got used. And what of the game itself? Does it carry the same quality as displayed in the trailer? Well, no. But now as we reach the late 2010s, more and more trailers begin to take on this cinematic style with the use of narration, gameplay, and the occasional CG scene, treating itself more like a movie than a video game. And you can see this with yet again, AAA games who want to sell their expensive, unfinished, very janky games to non-gamers who like seeing pretty moving pictures acting like movies. Is it a bad thing though? Why don't we take a look at trailers that try to be more fun and hip?
Make the bad guys cry like an anime fan on prom night.
No, not that. No, not that.
Tomorrow's unethical business practices today. The future of video games and the future's future.
Kinda. Wait, no, that's not what I meant. Go back! Oh, mobile gaming, you were so innocent. Back then, You just had simple yet addicting games that didn't prey on parents' wallets, only ruined the life of one Chinese guy, and caused the death of Flash. Ah yes, with classics like Temple Run, Running Fred, Jetpack Joyride, and Where's My Water? Nowadays, it's just a cesspool of diarrhea, just mountains and mountains of the same clickbait games with the same stolen gameplay mechanics and the same monetizing techniques. And you wanna know what's the worst part? These. This is kind of like someone who went back to the ads in the 90s and early 2000s and brought back the worst aspects of it, with many of these ads always following the same abhorrent, gross, and even perverted themes within their content that should be considered illegal. Why? Because these ads are obviously targeted towards kids because of the games they're advertising. A story of drama, murder, and conspiracy between families. Find out more by sliding blocks around you, brainlet. Now, how did this happen? How to get from this to this? Lily's Garden is a mobile mastery game that came out back in 2017, where you play as this girl, supposedly Lily, who has to help her elderly aunt restore a huge garden in her old mansion by doing a bunch of mastery book puzzles and decorating. At first, the ad seemed innocent enough. It shows the intro of the game of Lily's life being miserable, but gets an invitation from her aunt to come to her mansion. But then, something starts happening. As more ads of Lily's Gardens come out, it starts to form into what at first seems to be this weird soap opera that features exes, love triangles, and drama amongst family members and lovers. Then it just got even weirder, starting with this ad. I don't know what the euphemism it is, but it's definitely something that's supposed to be steamy. And then it goes downhill from here. With each ad, it's like a loot box where you might get more story progression in the plot of the game's world, or something that is sexually suggestive or just plain crazy. There's just no in between. And it's all unrelated to what the game is actually about. I'm assuming because I never played it. The more I watch, the deeper this rabbit hole gets. Like there's even a fucking game theory video about the lore of these ads. And if there's a game theory about it, then you definitely know others want to hop on this trend. So here starts the slop era of gaming ads. Starting with the copycats, the ads at first were pretty simple enough, with using bait to get the children to play with ads like level 1 versus level 1000 type videos of one player acting like they had a lobotomy while the other entering into god mode, racking out quintillions of points to prove that the drooling toddlers that they can be badasses by draining mommy's bank account. A similar one is the legit gameplay of these puzzle games, where the player makes the wrong choices leading to the ad asking, "Can you do it? Play now!" An obvious tactic to psychologically manipulate kids to download and play it to prove that they are the cool one. Some ads even just let the gameplay speak for itself. For example, the greatest mobile ad to date.
Hey guys, it's me, Flying Gorilla, from my new app on the App Store, Flying Gorilla. It's a free download, so I hope you check it out. And
But probably the more infamous ads are these. But back to Match 3 games. With the many copycats of Lily's Gardens popping up, they have to stand out amongst the masses of slop, so they have to one-up Lily's ads by releasing ads that are some of the most horrific ads no man should ever see. Video games were a mistake. Oh, and don't get me fucking started on AI ads, because that's another rabbit hole I do not want to dive into. So, where are we now? I feel like we've now passed the golden age of video game advertising. Many ads nowadays aren't just as memorable as those before. A lot of them don't try to be experimental and creative on how they advertise their games. It's just much easier to sell your game through your 4K, 120 FPS graphics, and cuts of gameplay with the structure of movie trailers. And why it's easier is because the mainstream audience would probably be put off by an ad that is just balls to the walls wacky, with a game like, I don't know, FIFA 20 million. But the ads that are remembered are the weird and wacky ones. Many of these old ads are looked back fondly, as it's a reflection of what the culture of each era was for gaming, or even what the time period was like. The 80s were more mystical and full of whimsy, showcasing 8-bit games to be more than it looks on the surface, and represents the optimism this new technology has to bring a new form of entertainment for the average person. The 90s represent the excitement that comes with the technological growth with games and showcasing how fun games are with the hyperactive, over-the-top advertising more oriented to kids and tweens. But when the noughties came around, the culture shifted to target towards a more adult audience, as the market wanted to be shown to be more mature and something that wasn't just for kids. However, the content they showed just made it more juvenile, with focusing on sex jokes and gross out humor to attract the weirdos. But as time went on, they certainly did mature, taking themselves more seriously and presented themselves to be more for everyone, such as Nintendo becoming more family orientated, and Xbox and PlayStation leaning towards spectacle and cinematography to attract the non-gamers. And nowadays, modern gaming is very well established, and there's this sense of loss and creativity in their advertising, as AAA games just play it safe by showcasing their games with trailers. But that doesn't mean creative or insane ads are not entirely, with indie games and small studios having fun with how they would advertise their games. Even the big boys would have fun with their ads. Thinking about it now, I haven't even brought up the showcases such as Nintendo Direct and State of Play, as they are a collection of game trailers put into one live stream with cut-ins by the presenters who even have some wacky moments. I think it's nice though there's still fun to be had in the world of video games. While we have lost that sense of insanity in advertising, I wouldn't really miss some of the less tasteful elements of those old ads. Don't.